Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hi there, I'm your host of Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm. Welcome back. You have me today, me, myself, and I. I always find that really interesting because I'm kind of just bringing it out to the ether, where I always feel like, oh, it's like solo play, but I have wires, maybe. The thought of it is kind of always interesting to me. So today, we're going to be talking about loving the avoidant. And it's both infused with script and poeticism and some practical, I'm going to say, tools, but it's always meant to inspire and to resonate. So this is both for those who keep showing up with our hearts wide open on their sleeves, full on tenderness storm, and for those who can't, the avoidant, the one who stands at the door and can't step through, can't step inside. Loving the avoidant is like drinking from an empty well. Your mouth is parched, your body is aching for water, and what you taste is dust. You keep lowering the bucket, thinking you're going to find something wet, something alive, and what you find is the echo of your own thirst. You're quenching on memory, on some mirage. It's knowing that the water exists somewhere deep, but that they can't draw it up, not now, and maybe not ever. So as always, I'm always coming from something that's deeply alive within me. This is not a strict essay. This isn't 101 dating advice on who to love or not to love or how to do it right. Because I think it's far truer to say that we are all learning to do whatever it is, better. And right now, as I look at the topic of loving the avoidant, it's something that I'm living romantically, and it leaks out in everything that I'm doing. So I just started, I say this very loosely, that I started the first phase of the South Beach diet. This whole first phase is about this deprivation of sugar. And for me, I've done it before, 3 weeks of starvation, but I keep coming back to this over and over as something that is good for me to bring me back into balance. But I will just say I've already crashed and had the bar of chocolate. But being with the title of loving the avoidant, I mean loving the avoidant in every way. Loving a man who can't come closer, who leaves notes unnoticed, unanswered, who hides behind busyness and control. And here I want to insert, I'm speaking sometimes about a man, but please feel free to insert man and woman. It is interchangeable. However, the masculine tends to lean towards the deprivation, the removal, just the way he is wired and been conditioned. But I also know for myself, experiencing the avoidant. And for me, that was loving a wife that I could not bring myself to witness in her own dying, in her own illness. And there's still the avoidant within me that is avoiding my mother's illness, that wants to avoid when it gets too hard. Avoidance lives in the body. It's not just a label or a style of being way too cool. It's about recoil, it's about bracing, it's about this tightening of the skin or meeting the thud of our chest. It's muting the noise outside. It's this restlessness of looking for the next adventure, of wanting to get on a plane to just about anywhere, to just go away, but not in feeling the experience, but just to escape the body. So in my own body, I can feel oftentimes as my mother calls me on the phone that I don't want to answer the phone. My whole nervous system collapsing into not now. I know the avoidant because I am the avoidant. And I love the avoidant because I recognize and have known beautiful men who carry the mask so well, that looks like confidence, but underneath is a boy that's trembling at the thought of being truly seen, of not being good enough, of being rejected, abandoned, judged, shamed. The shape of avoidance, because avoidance, it isn't absence. It's defense. It's standing in front of 1,000 bullets and shielding yourself with whatever you can. Control, charm, sex, silence. Excuses abound. It's in the mask of competence, but the scaffolding inside is brittle and crumbling. And it's what an eating disorder feels like. Empty, controlled, meticulous, but starved of nourishment. It's what addiction expresses as reaching out for the drink, the drug, the workaholism, the scroll, the women, the men. All ways to keep from sitting in the fire of the body, of sensation, of feeling intimacy. It's like saying, I would rather die in numbness and outward success in the gloss of it all than risk being consumed in the heat of your love, of connection, or more accurately, in vulnerability. So for the woman who loves the avoidant is like an unfinished sentence. It can feel like offerings into a canyon where nothing echoes back. It feels like lying naked next to someone who cannot abandon themselves inside of you, cannot let go, cannot come home fully, in full presence. It's it's looking without seeing. It's touch without being felt. It's words that literally drop off a cliff into nowhere. And I will be sharing shortly of what it feels like on the reverse side, the avoidance journey, the perspective shortly. But first I want to share some stories for myself because I woke up just this morning. I was in a sleep dreaming, and it's rare these days that I dream of my former wife. But I did. She's still living. Her presence is still around me. And I have found it's so difficult in some ways to express a sense of missing her. But last night or this morning when I dreamt of her, I wanted a nearness, a dissolution, a coming home feeling. I wanted some form of connection, a hug in my dreams, some kind of something that would soothe the tension between us. And I can feel both of our resistances. It was like ghosts pressed against glass. And I could hear myself kind of in that place of limbo and sleep, that space of dreaming, where I was just thinking, I miss you, and the words came out of my mouth. And as I said, I wasn't able and have not been able to say those words, both from the day I had left her in our marriage to even after her passing, and we talk a lot. But those were words that I could not find resonance with in my body because it just felt like too much in my system. So every day now, as I prep to visit my mom, I fear her energy vampirism. and the fact that I can't fix it. Visiting her now feels like punishment as she lays eyes on me with blame. She's good at doing the finger pointing thing. And her words are harsh and they're direct and they hit home. They hit in the spaces within me where the I'm unlovable, I am awful place resonates. And I can feel my rib cage and my chest collapsing. And she is part of me. And the avoidant in me learned very well from her because she was avoidant. And so even as my inclination is to run from her, I recognize that I love her. So in my own life, and I'm going to call him Mr. Big, I'm a huge Sex and the City fan. Love Carrie and Mr. Big. And there was this scene where she's just like, it's enough, like I've had it. And has this moment for herself where she's reclaiming herself in the absence of Mr. Big. But there's so much depth and love there. Because loving Mr. Big is loving the avoidant. I've learned in my own life that it's loving silence. Learning to love his avoidance of my presence. Loving dangling texts. And learning to love exit signs everywhere. And I wonder sometimes whether the avoidance or the avoidant ever loses the battle and wakes to the ache of desiring presence. And I recognize that in loving the avoidant, I'm mirroring my own because I don't have to stand in presence with someone who is avoidant, who carries that sign so in neon lights. I get to chase the idea of it. I am still safe in loving the avoidant, however painful that experience might be. And we often think that staying away, keeping ourselves asleep is a way of avoiding the pain, but really what it is an undercurrent of suffering, a quiet well that keeps leaking underneath. We get used to comfort. We get used to being complacent. We fall into routine. We tell ourselves that life is good enough this way because we're safe. And maybe once in another lifetime, that was true. That was our way of surviving because we brought along these inherited patterns and values and ways of being that were handed down to us. And sometimes they came from our own childhoods, and maybe it came from a romance gone wrong. And all of these experiences that give us shape, that give our ground. But the deeper truth is that consciousness is a choice now to stay asleep in good enough or to wake into eros is a harsh reality to look at, but a beautiful one. And so when we talk about, and this is the next thing we're going to talk about, is attachment styles and mirrors. So for those of you who might be very familiar with the popular secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, there's also the wave, the island, the anchor. These are attachment styles. But they aren't just concepts. They are somatic realities. The anxiously attached is the wave, the one that burns hot, wants to merge, wants to feed a hunger that has no bottom and wants to know now. It's crashing towards hungry, desperate, longing. See me, hold me, don't leave. But there are holes that seep whatever is received. The avoidant is the island, separate, self-sufficient, contained, freezes, steps back, says, too much. I stay safe by staying alone. It is better to remove myself than to disappoint, than to risk, than to risk loss, than to risk being seen. And the disorganized is the storm of swinging between both. And of course, the secure bobs like a wave, tethered but moving. And most of us carry all of them to some degree or have known them in one way or another. True to my nature, and I say this, shapeshifter, switch, disorganized, all of this. But none of this is a sentence. None of this means that you are bound by this. This is information to start to understand the reactions of what is going on. And interestingly enough, the anxiously attached is no different from the avoidant, no different than the island. The only difference is both are anxious, both are terrified. They're just being acted out differently. But standing and loving the avoidant means standing at the threshold of collapse over and over again. It means learning to love the little boy behind the mask, the girl behind the shame, the parent who can't show up, the self inside of us that still wants to run. So yes, I've been the wave, I've been the storm, and I've been the island. Avoidance, being avoidant, is not only the other. It's not the polarity of someone else. It's we dance this within ourselves. If we can recognize it in another, we can recognize it within us. I have been one that has been anxious, chasing, writing, aching. And I have also been the avoidant, disappearing, pushing away, tightening. I have been disorganized, lost between longing and fear. And through many years of work within myself, I also know what it means to feel secure and anchored, to learn where I can breathe into my presence, into my body, and hold it all without collapse. So I know this feeling of presence in my bones. And it always brings me back to acting, the old familiar adage that actors act, get up on stages in order to fill that well to be loved. And so as an actress, I'm familiar to that. And oftentimes standing backstage, though, my whole body would rebel before stepping on into lights. Every cell screamed, "Don't let them see me." My mind would go blank with fear, could not remember the first line to save my life. My stomach would feel literally sick, my eyes watering, looking for the lines in my head. And somewhere my mind also looking for a way not to carry out and not to go through the stepping in. And of course, there was all this excitement that in the stepping in, there would be this absolute thrill of being seen. The fluidity, when it's moving well in possibility, in connection, that would take over. But of course, there was also the terror, the white heat of exposure. And afterwards, what I call the vulnerability hangover. And that's the paradox. Avoidance and exposure, fear and longing, the craving to be witnessed in the raw bareness of truth, and the terror that this bareness is going to literally destroy you, kill you. So Patsy Rodenberg has a book, and I think I've mentioned it before, called The Second Circle, amongst others, and she's brilliant. But she talks about these three circles of being, of energy. And the first is collapse, this inward avoiding. It's the withdrawing. But it's not just collapsing inwardly, as definitely the avoidant can do, but there's this taking of energy. So and the third being more of that, and we can think of, I'm sure most of us can think of a president out there that has this quality. It's this bouncing of energy, this giving, but this inability to receive. And to me, the avoidant has most of the third experience of energy, because it is energy that is being pushed outward, but this inability to receive. And love and connection demands that we are open in what she calls second circle. This full-on presence that's alive, the veil gone, it's there. There's an exchange moving from one to another. Even within the body, when the body is flowing fluidly in energy, it goes up, it goes down. There's a receiving and a giving, and we can feel and sense the world around us. We're not pushing away. We're not overcompensating, right? So the person, the avoidant, tends to overcompensate. Hyper successful, smiling, doing. So for myself, I lived in first and third for a long time. And there's an exhaustion that comes with performing and retreating, because both demand that we're not seen. But there's something, we can talk about this sense of the third circle, or putting energy outward as being something grand, big. I'm going to say like military, where there's a forceful energy coming out. But there's something that is much quieter than that. And the quietness is in the nuance. It's being able to stay with what is and noticing where we push and where we collapse. There's the nuance of playing in this, and this is when you know your body very well, because if you don't, it's going to feel even more abrupt. But to love the avoidant, you are constantly waiting for this second circle, for the veil to drop, for the boy to become the man, for the man to finally arrive. And sometimes it looks like the person is arriving, but you can feel and sense that something is off. So sex and real eros is the same. It's to abandon yourself inside someone, or to allow someone to abandon themselves inside of you. And that is, and I say abandon, I'm talking surrender. That is living without a script. That is risking being seen, being caught, being ugly, being too much, being abandoned. And seeing someone and being seen is both incredibly thrilling, intoxicating. I'm telling you, there are not many drugs, if at all, that can really match that, only highlight that. It's terrifying also. And it's also where love lives. It's where we want to be safe, but most of us don't know what it is to feel safe within our own bodies. So what does it feel like to be avoidant? Wow, holy shit. Well, to be avoidant is to live inside a body that's never fully at home. It's to carry architecture. It's to be in rigidity that might look sturdy from the outside, but inside is rotting, hollow. It's shame that floods when someone gets too close. It's the thought, the wound, the monster underneath, that the person that they love will run once they see you. So the avoidant runs first, or freezes, or laughs, or makes a joke, or maybe changes the subject. Maybe they slot you in with an appointment, or scrolls on the phone. Maybe it's watching porn or binging Netflix. It's hiding in busyness. And even today, it's a lot of, I'm wearing glasses because God knows I can't see without them, but today we're a culture of sunglasses. And it's great to protect our eyes, but we stop looking into people. And so much happens there. It looks like control, calm, coolness, dismissiveness. It's a smile where there's ache, where there's internal chaos held by chains. Avoidance is 1,000 tiny recoils. For me, it's the bluntness of my rib cage squeezing before doing something I absolutely don't want to do. And it's my body telling me it's not safe. It's saying each time before I go to the hospital, don't go, because I have such deep fear of the punishment and of the love that is being literally torn out of this human. The avoidant is also in places of words like, whatever, I'm fine, instead of sitting in the heavy silence. For me, it's letting people in my life go because of my own fear of conflict. I've gone from restless feet in Montreal to Vancouver, down the coast, to Europe, to London, back to Europe. Not that I don't love travel, I do, but it's holding a passport like a lover and keeping the escape hatch always within reach. Avoidance isn't the lack of love. It's often too much love, too much feeling, too much stimulation. It's the nervous system flooding red alerts at the very sight of intimacy. It's reading, I love you as, you're going to trap me. It's hearing a desire whispered as, you're going to shame me. It's interpreting closeness as suffocation, exposure as death. And if you think I'm being melodramatic, I can tell you that the way your body is wired, it is a matter of life and death. So avoidance is the addict's logic. Just one drink to numb it, just one more work project to keep busy, just one woman to distract me, or man. It is the anorexic's logic. If I can just control every bite, every calorie, I will be safe. It is the bulimic's logic. Purge it all before it consumes me. Avoidance is addiction in disguise, addiction to distance, addiction to self-control, addiction to the fantasy that if I stay hidden, if I stay contained, I won't ever have to risk the ruin of intimacy. I don't have to risk the ruin and being ruined in intimacy. I won't have to show my flaws. Who I think that you'll walk away from if I show you who I truly am. The avoidant body is never fully inhabited. It walks through life, polished, clean, crisp, very possibly on the outside, successful, responsible, desirable even. But inside, there's a facade of stone. They are the untouchable, the unreachable. Avoidance is not absence of desire. It is desire so deep and so overwhelming, it collapses the system. It is the alcoholic who drinks to silence the screaming wound. It is the anorexic who believes control is safety, even if it kills her. It is the bulimic who binges intimacy in secret, only to purge it before it sticks and stays. Avoidance is an eating disorder of the heart. You are starving in plain sight while love sits across the table with a feast in her hands. So Janine, my former spouse, had a friend who was a raging alcoholic. He was just a beautiful being, but he would literally need a case of gin to get through a weekend. And he died sadly around 40. But what was so amazing was the witnessing of how loved he was. His ex-wife had to leave him because she could not bear witness to it, but the love never ceased. And one thing that I realized about the memorial was how loved he was. But the thing about avoidance is that though you can see their shine and you can see their pulse and their heart, they have the inability to stay with it because it's so overwhelming. The sensation is greater. We think we're supposed to drive to the next thing, to plow past, to move forward, right? Really move through these blockages and heal. I need to show up. I need to force my way through. I need to force my way through feeling, which is actually a very yang and I'm going to say a distorted masculine embodiment to the absolute detriment. And what I'm loving right now around Tai Chi, and honestly in this moment, I have no idea if I have already said this because I've just been rambling, but talking about nuance and stillness, because stillness isn't limp. Stillness isn't death. It's not absence. It's absolute presence. It's true stillness has current. It has possibility. It's like the womb. And in stillness, true stillness, there is a give and a receive. There is an openness. There's a reciprocity. Right. I love Tai Chi. We were talking today also about the movement of the upper body being like leaves. Why? And the legs being planted. And this is actually just a beautiful image of the anchor, or what we call secure attachment. It's not that we don't ever even dip into other parts of being the avoidant or being the anxiously attached, but it's the ability to come back to ourselves, to come back home, and how, I want to say quickly or efficiently, we can do that for ourselves, how quickly we can bring in this nourishment. So loving the avoidant, oh God, what is it to love the avoidant? Loving the avoidant, I think most of us can agree, is absolutely brutal. It feels to me like sending poems and notes and pictures into the void, like offering skin, sweat, tears, moans, and receiving it feels like lying next to somebody whose body is there, but their soul is cut off from you. It feels like standing naked for someone who won't take their coat off. And it looks like dangling carrots of thinking of you, or casual tossed up memes, messages that go nowhere. It feels like being held at arm's length, and yet you stay. I stay. Because the glimpse of the avoidance tenderness The rare moment of their presence is enough to make you believe that the rare drop of water keeps you in the desert waiting, loving, an alcoholic. You know the bottle comes first. You know you will always be second to escape, and yet you remember the man he is without the drink, the sweetness beneath the poison. And you keep reaching for the someone who keeps retreating. Loving the avoidant is like watching someone starve themselves. You know the feast is there. Your body, your love, your presence. But he/she cannot take it in. He picks at crumbs and controls portions, pretends he's satisfied while his body withers. And it's maddening, it's heartbreaking. It is eros unconsummated, love unreceived, devotion unacknowledged. And the cruelest part is this, is that the avoidant often thinks or hopes it goes unnoticed. The avoidant thinks the mask of confidence is self-control, and the boy inside is kept silent. The avoidant doesn't necessarily see or feel that we feel it, that we feel the absence in our bones, that we feel the distance in our skin, that we feel the lack of flow where energy should be. We know when a man can't risk himself inside of us. We know when his heart is shielded off, even as his hands touch our thighs. We know when his love costs him nothing. And we are left carrying the weight. But as I'm sure you've already gotten to know by now, that loving the avoidant isn't really just about him. It's about loving the one within us, within me, the one that still avoids the phone, the one that wanted to vomit before stepping up on stage, the me who couldn't deal with Janine's illness, with my former wife's illness. The day that the person in me who doesn't want to witness my mother go another day into her own descent, because I'm terrified of being dragged into it. Loving the avoidant means saying, I see the monster underneath. I see the wound that still leaks, and I choose to love anyway. Not coddling it, not excusing, but naming, witnessing, baring teeth without flinching, saying, yes, I see your shame. Yes, I see your collapse. Yes, I see the child who hides. And I love you. But I will not carry what you refuse to hold. And this is where eros burns. To love the avoidant is to ache in erotic hunger that cannot land, to feel your own body alive, ready, pulsing, where you are meeting a brick wall, to open your thighs, your heart, your soul, just to feel retreat, just to feel your own starvation, because eros needs risk, love needs risk, eros needs surrender, love needs surrender. Eros needs flow, as does love, and avoidance, in any measure, as the wave or the island blocks it off. So loving the avoidant is eros, unconsummated. It is, in fact, erotic starvation. It is the body moaning itself into silence, begging for presence that never arrives. So we're going to talk about the return and the risk of love. Because loving the avoidant, as I said at the top of this and keep carrying through this idea of Starvation is very much like being handed that glass of water that evaporates before it ever touches your lips. The thing is if you're not careful, it's returning over and over again to the empty well, knowing that you're still going to be thirsty, but returning because the thirst itself has become your identity. And it's crazy making, it's erotic, it's devastating, heart-wrenching, and I'm going to say without any kind of preciousness attached. It's also devotional. It's not just about him or her, the other. It's about me and all of us. It's about the avoidant within our own bones and without romancing the avoidant, because the avoidant is beautiful and is protecting something absolutely precious. The avoidant represents many, many beautiful people who cannot show up because their inner child, their inner chaos is running the bus. But this isn't about being fluent in injuries. Because as I said before, like feeding the alcoholic, like loving an eating disorder, like being intimate with starvation itself, the hunger, the control, the push-pull of wanting to be filled but never trusting the source. That is the source. Coming back home to the body, coming back home to ourselves. So what do we do with the avoidant? We love them, but we stop depleting ourselves. We stop waiting at doors for people or those parts within us that don't come home, that don't step in. Because love risks and love owns. It is accountability. It's in the safety of our own self-love that we find the anchor. Love can say, I love you, and I can't carry this anymore. Love isn't perfect. It's movement. It's doing it better or trying with the intention. And sometimes the most loving thing that we can do is step off the porch, close the door, and take our love back into our own arms. Because love, real love, never abandons us. It lives here, in the body, in your own breath. It's always here. Thank you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.